A sequel to a film that was a financial giant in the box office, but also left its everlasting stamp in film culture history. And now it's unfortunately without the late Chadwick Boseman. That's a tough job for any sequel. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. We return to the land of Wakanda after the events of Black Panther and Avengers Endgame, which is a place we haven't really revisited since. That in itself is really exciting, but Black Panther, deservingly so, stood so high atop that MCU ladder thanks to such a unique vision brought by Ryan Coogler and his team. Great, endearing characters, a really interesting story, and a kick-ass soundtrack and visuals to support. Even with the uncertainty of the direction of Black Panther now that Chadwick Boseman's passed away, I just couldn't help but have big expectations going into the sequel. And I'm really happy to say that with all the hurdles this film had to overcome, Wakanda Forever really does knock it out the park. First and foremost, we do have to address Chadwick Boseman's passing and the way that has affected the story. Honestly, I thought it was done very tactfully, in a form of ripping the plaster off sort of fashion. It's straight to the point. It really doesn't let itself forget that this is a tribute to him, but it also lets us move on quickly to focus on that next chapter, which now lets us focus more on side characters that may have taken more of a back seat in the original Black Panther. And I think a huge part of why this film works is because our core cast do such an incredible job here. They really had to step up for this. Letitia, Wright and Angela Bassett had such a big job to fulfill here, and honestly I thought they were both really great. There's a couple of moments in here which Angela Bassett takes lead on where the scene was so powerful. And story-wise, Shuri has now been given more of that spotlight, and I think I'd built up something in my head of a preconceived feeling of how I felt about Shuri being the main lead. And I think the story here shifts focus so naturally that I can't really figure out who would have been a better central character here. Letitia Wright does such a good job of showing us the mourning that Shuri is going through, as well as portraying the anger and the pressure she's feeling from having to protect Wakanda without her brother. I sound pretty cryptic and the trailers probably do give away most of what I'm trying to talk about anyway, but I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Letitia Wright's acting in here is incredible, and she does a great job of convincing me that she is the right character to focus on. I also just really enjoyed a lot of her scenes in the third act of the film where she interacts with certain people, where we really get to see the depth of her character. Not only is it a big win for Letitia Wright's character, but I also thought we got really great performances from Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, as well as Winston Duke as M'Baku. Honestly, anytime a character on screen mentions T'Challa, it really tugs at your heartstrings. It really goes to show you how important he was to the cast, both on screen and off. And I loved to hear how both Nakia and M'Baku played very supportive roles, giving Shuri advice that might have been given by T'Challa if he was still around. M'Baku also managed to give us a modest dose of comedy as well. Good God, I could watch a whole show on this guy. I really want M'Baku to play more of a central role going into the next Black Panther film. Danai Gurira as Okoye, whilst I did love her performance, it was great as always, I wasn't really too excited about the direction they took her character. I think she really stood out for herself in the first half of this film and then became practically invisible by the second half of the movie. And from returning characters, it's probably a good time to talk about the new, and especially Namor and the underwater kingdom of Talokan. Namor as a character, being translated from comic book to live action, could have gone terribly. But the way we're introduced to them in the first act of this film, it's really intense, and it really sets the right tone, taking them seriously. Tenoch Huerta did such a good job, and I just loved seeing Namor just darting in and out of the water. So good. Also designed in a way where we had a fair bit of empathy and understanding of where he was coming from. He wasn't just a MCU bad guy for the sake of being bad. And I think the last person worth mentioning here is Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart. And I think there's a healthy balance of giving her a good chunk to do in the film versus it not being entirely an Ironheart movie. It's a nice introduction to the character, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were upset by how much she makes Tony Stark look bad at becoming Iron Man, if that makes sense. She has to get to a position that Tony Stark got to in 2 hours that she only gets in 30 minutes of screen time. I'm hoping we get a more rounded telling of her character when her TV show eventually comes out, but she was still really good here. A fair chunk of this film is underwater, and that was done pretty well here. I would love to see some of the behind the scenes of how they film things like this. It's probably as good as Aquaman, if not maybe a bit better. It's going to be really interesting to see how Avatar 2 deals with being underwater next. In fact, All the CGI here was on point. Black Panther had some shaky moments with the final battle as well as some of the Rhino CGI, but everything here looked consistently top tier. Every environment here felt pretty distinct with some incredible costumes. I really hope the costume department gets some recognition as we go into award season. My only nitpick would be that with how vibrant and incredible Wakanda looks, it made the underwater city look pretty bland and dull. And I can see what they were going for, that Aztec style design, and the costumes still looked incredible, but overall the city itself was just lacking something. Unsurprisingly though, the soundtrack is phenomenal in this film too. Also, props to a film when it feels confident to have a lack of score as well in some of its moments. When they know that what is going on screen is the only thing that matters, and it really dials up that tension when done right. And I think the biggest complaint most people might have for this film is that it's a really long film. It's over 2.5 hours. I don't really know what to take out though. Maybe some of the scenes with Everett Ross. Unfortunately, Martin Freeman's character just didn't feel that necessary in this one. But for 99% of this film, as advertised, this is a healing process for both us and the cast. Our hands are held through that grieving stage whilst being forced with the characters to look forward at what's ahead and just remaining forever grateful at everything Chadwick Boseman had done. I definitely shed some tears. Mind you, it's not that hard, but I left this movie feeling like a form of tension had been lifted and gaining confidence that the Black Panther series is able to move in the right direction. There's also some pretty cool surprises in here which I can't wait for you guys to see, so I definitely recommend this one. But it came out last weekend, so have you already seen it? If you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you found this review helpful, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, it always helps out. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews on movies, anime and video games. Until next time guys, take care, bye bye.